Oh, this happened.
This is a 2-room, 10-person hot tent that comes with the biggest price tag of any tent I've ever owned or looked at. So before you buy it, let me try it and let you know if this tent is worth the money or if it's just funny. Coming in at just over $2,000, on sale right now for about $16.99. I've tested this tent for 2 weeks. I had to put it through its paces for you guys. I had to see if it's worth the money. I put it through 2 snowstorms, 2 ice storms, a rainstorm, and then I put it through the Spackman water torture test as well. So we're going to go through the results of that. We're going to go through the pros and cons of this massive blow-up hot tent. And then I'm going to let you know whether I think it's worth the money or if it's just funny. So let's go over the story about how I got this hot tent and the story about the company.
So I've seen the same tent for sale from RBM, the Russian Bear. I don't know what M stands for, but the Russian Bear tent company. And I've reached out to them for 2 years now, multiple times. I can't tell you, on all platforms to see if they'd be interested in sending me a tent for review. They've never responded. And then I saw an ad on Facebook for this tent from Oliezi, and I reached out to them. They responded almost immediately, which was really cool. Most of the time I'm reaching out to companies in other countries, and it takes a day or two for them to even see my messages. But Oliezi is a family-run company out of California in the United States. So they got back to me immediately, said they would be interested in sending me this $2,000 tent for testing and review. And I'm so happy. Thank you guys for watching and making this possible. So back to the company, Oliezi. It's a family-run company from California. Oliezi, the name, comes from the family's kids' names. It's both of their kids, the beginning of both of their kids' names put together to make the name of Oliezi. I kind of think the story behind the company is pretty cool too. Now I said that this is an exact copy of the Russian Bear tent, but there's 2 differences that I've noticed from pictures of the Russian Bear tent. One of the main differences is the stove jack. This does come with the flap to cover the stove jack and a spot for you to put a stove jack, but it doesn't come with the fire retardant material itself. They recommend getting one of these off of Amazon. It's a silicone stove jack that bolts in. Very easy to install. I want to say I bought this for 25 bucks. They get a little more expensive than that, but not much. Never used one of these silicone stove jacks. I have not installed it in this tent yet, but I will be doing that. As far as I can tell, the Russian Bear tent comes with a fiberglass, silicone impregnated fiberglass stove jack, and this one doesn't. You got to get one yourself. You can add one of those yourself, the fiberglass impregnated ones, but this is, you just cut a hole and bolt this in, so that's wicked easy. We're going to be testing this out in the future.
Now this is the biggest difference between Oliezi's tent and the Russian Bear tent. On the Russian Bear tent's listing, I see nothing about it including a rain fly, but this tent does. The main tent body is a TC canvas, meaning it's like it's coated with something, but it's a cotton canvas so that it's able to breathe better than your Oxford or your Sil nylon material. But then they include a higher water rated Oxford material rain fly, and this rain fly is huge. Right now both sides are rolled up. They also go all the way down to the ground on both sides, but they have straps so you can roll them up and still use the rain fly and the windows. I think this additional rain fly is awesome. I've also been in contact with the company through my whole testings. They've taken my suggestions, wrote them down, and they are coming out with a version 2 of this. They already had thoughts of adding a flap to the rain fly to be able to use the rain fly with a stove inside of it. As it is right now, if you want to use the rain fly with the stove, you have to move it down to leave a space for the stove to come out of the tent. But you can still have the main body of the tent, your sleeping area, covered with the rain fly, but your stove area will not be. I suggested adding a flap to this to allow the pipe to come through as well. I think if they add that, this tent will be killer, even though it's already killer right now. All right, so those are the biggest differences I can see between this and the Russian Bear tent. So let's go inside and check out the inside, and then we'll get into my testing results.
We're looking at the back side of the tent. This is the sleeping area if you're using it as a hot tent. I mean, you can sleep where you guys are too. There's plenty of room. This is a 10-person tent. I believe you can fit 5 people just in this section alone. 4 cots comfortably with a little space in between, or 2
full-size beds on either side, not queen size. I don't think it will fit queen size, but it might. I'm not sure. You have 2 sets of pockets, one on either side of the back window. This window is screened in and broken up into window frames, right? It has an inside flap as well as an outside flap to close off this window completely. The outside flap has Velcro all the way along the bottom to seal it right up. And on either side, you have your main body windows. They don't have flaps on the inside, but they have screen on the inside, and then they have full flaps on the outside. Here comes Remy Dog. What are you doing, Remy Dog? What are you doing? What are you doing? You're the good boys. You're the good boys. Remy Dog break. Seems like this happens a lot in every video. You like this tent? You like this tent? Alright, go. Let's come into this room and I'll show you a little more about this one. On the back wall, next to the pocket, you have 3 air inlets. This can be used for air conditioning, diesel heaters, any sort of heaters, or just fresh air intake. There's also another one on the front side, just one. I would imagine they could be used for electrical cords as well. And then you have the divider wall right here, which also includes 2 screened-in windows. So you can open these screens when you have a stove going to get heat back here, or you can take this right out because it just zips right into place. It has a full door as well as a screen door. So if you want this front part as a screen room in the summertime where you eat, and then this for your main living area, you can close it off and keep the bugs out as well, which is a great option. Now you might be wondering, what are these things? These are the skylights in this tent, guys. They have flaps that cover them on the inside, no flaps on the outside, but the rainfly does cover them completely. So I tested these skylights with the Spackwood water torture test without the rainfly on. I found one issue with the tent during that test, but I wanted to test the skylights just for you guys to see how they held up against the Spackwood water torture test. And here's what happened during that test. When I look up, I am getting misted with rain. This fabric is letting moisture through. I don't know if you can see that, but you just have to take my word for it. You know what? Let me stick this up right here, and I'll show you my screen after a few seconds. So right off the bat, the roof of this is not completely waterproof, but there is a rainfly, so we're testing it with the rainfly after this. I can feel it. I can feel it on my face. Oh. See? That's mist from the roof. I mean, I am spraying it really good right there. That is getting wet. But it shouldn't do that. I can't say that. It does have a rain fly. So heavy rain, you definitely need a rain fly on. We'll test the rain fly after this, guys. That's dry. It's only been a few minutes still. This is the other one. Most likely, I'm assuming it's going to be this seam here, the bottom seam. If it starts leaking, it's going to be this seam. But nothing yet. I'll keep you updated. Update. All right, so there's the door. I am looking at the left side of the tent, right side of the tent. Left side is the one with moisture. Okay, let me dry my hand on my pants. Right side is dry. So only that left side is bad. Right side is fine. Maybe the left side didn't get waterproofed. I'm not sure. But that's moisture on that side. Right here, that's dry. Dry. But this panel is wet. So the skylights themselves held up great. But this piece of fabric right here seemed like it missed waterproofing at the factory. I reached out to the company, I told them about that, and they said they'd take it up with the company. They were very easy to talk to. They did not take any of my criticisms to heart. They took them as great testing on my part, which I love when companies do that, because that's what I do. I test tents, I tell them my results, and that's it. I do the same thing for you guys. I test tents and I show you my results. I don't try to sell you a product. I tell you whether I think it's worth the money or if it's just funny. With that being said, I really want to show you my biggest pro of this tent before we get into the other results of my testing. In front of the screen of these main body windows is clear plastic inserts. This is freaking awesome. So the 4 windows on the sides of the tent have clear plastic inserts that zip right into the window, giving you a clear window for your hot tent. I think clear windows for hot tents is just awesome. Being able to see outside of your tent in the wintertime is really fun in my opinion. You spend a lot of time inside of your tent when you're winter camping because it's cold out and you have your stove in here. So being able to see the scenery instead of just a wall of your tent is pretty darn cool. And this tent includes plastic inserts for your windows. For the 4 main body windows, not the end windows on the door and the back side. But the 4 main body windows have plastic covers, and they just zip right in. As you can see right through. These are both plastic windows. This is one of my biggest pros of this tent, is the plastic windows. I think more hot tents need plastic windows. Let's go over what comes in the package of this tent. You get 2 bags. This is the accessory bag. We'll go over this second. This is the main tent bag. This thing is huge. The tent is huge. It weighs 100 pounds. So it's not a light tent, it's not a cheap tent. This bag is made out of the same fabric as the tent, it's canvas. It comes with these really nice instructions on the inside. It also tells you the approximate PSI to pump it up to. 7.5. I found when it's cold, it only takes about 6 PSI to make it hard. That's what she said. And it's still solid. With my Acacia pump, it took about 11 minutes for this to blow up from deflated all the way erect. And that's not bad. 11 minutes, your tent sets itself up. It's pretty darn cool. It is heavy, so the first thing you need to do is spread it out, and then you hook the pump up and let it do its thing. I had my Acacia pump sent to me by Acacia, but in the accessory bag for this tent, they do give you a pump with a PSI gauge. I haven't used that to pump this up, but the company told me that it will take about 250 to 300 pumps to fully inflate this tent. I'm lazy, so I have the automatic inflator. The accessory bag is made out of the same material as the tent fly, which the tent fly comes in the accessory bag, as well as 26 of these giant stakes. Nice spike on the bottom and a nice shepherd hook on top. It also comes with 8 locking carabiners. You can use these for whatever you want. I didn't use them. I remember, dog. The accessory bag also comes with the plastic zip-in windows. I thought I was going to have a tough time zipping them in, but I really didn't. I thought the plastic was going to get caught in them. I had trouble with one corner on one of them, and that was it. The rest of them zipped right in, no problem. So that's a good plus. So I've had this tent in a snowstorm, and then an ice storm. I've had it in rainstorms, and then I put it up against a Spackman water torture test. The first snow and rainstorm, I also had the A-frame blow-up tent over here. If you haven't seen that video, it was pretty funny. That one leaked like crazy. But during that rain test, the only leaks I had the full window flaps. I had these window flaps rolled up because I wanted to see how waterproof the plastic windows were going to be. But they're not meant to be waterproof. There's no waterproofing for the zipper. So the only way to waterproof the windows is to zip the flaps over them. But I had these open for my first rain test, and those were the only places that the tent was leaking, was from these plastic windows. Now that is not condensation, but the outside flaps are not closed. I think the windows leaking is all right because the flap is not closed. Got some leaking on the stove jack, which is normal. Every stove jack leaks in my experience. This window's dry. A little bit of moisture right there. This window has some leakage too. Again,
They're all open. Should have closed them. Like this back window is closed. And there's no moisture coming in. So was the door. The door was closed and the door was dry. All right, skylights. So far, I see no moisture dripping from it. Oh, that's cool. This one is dry. Dry.
Right through the zippers, they were leaking. I then had them covered for the next rain test, and they stayed dry. So you definitely want these covers closed when it's raining. But the cool thing about them, each one of the window flaps comes with a guy out line. So you can guy these out to create an awning for your window. So even when it's raining, you can still look out those windows and stay dry. This is a cool feature for these windows. Guying out your windows and watching the rain inside of your hot tent, I think that's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to do that. So I tested the skylights with the spackle water torture test. After that rain test, we got 4 inches of wicked heavy snow. And then a day later, it stayed up with the wicked heavy wet snow, but then a day later, we got about a ½ inch of freezing rain, and this happened.
Much weight is too much weight at a blow-up inflatable tent? That much. It came down. Cleaning it off.
I've already tried to go inside and lift it up. There's way too much weight for me to do that. It's pretty darn heavy. Let's try again. That ain't happening. Holy cow. There was so much weight on this tent, I couldn't pick it up to try to get it off. I had to deflate it and then clean it all off. I was really worried that I ruined this $2,000 tent by not cleaning off the heavy snow, and then we got a lot of rain on top of it. And it just put so much weight on this tent. But as you can see, it reinflated just fine. There was no damage to the tent whatsoever. A normal wall tent with poles, they would have broke, they would have bent, and then you would have been screwed and you would have had to be buying new poles or making a frame for it. With this, I just reinflated it after I cleaned it off and it was good to go again. After that, I put it up against the spack water torture test. I tested the skylights as you saw earlier, and then I put the rain fly on and I tested each side separately. I tested the back, and then I tested the front. Each one got blasted with water for over an hour. And here's the results of that.
Okay, I have been blasting this thing with water for over 2 hours now. 1 hour on one side, an hour on this side. I have not checked it since I changed sides, so we're seeing it together for the first time. Oh, you know what, hold on. I'm going to roll this door up so we have light. Alright. Shoes off. There's no moisture in here at all. Nothing dripping, nothing wet. Completely dry. Now that's a rain fly that you can trust. Wow, that's crazy. That's a good rain fly. Good tent, good rain fly. Alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow for my review.
So the results worked out amazing. with the Rainfly, you can pitch it right down to the ground, completely covering the whole tent except for the front and back vertical walls. Other than that, the whole entire tent is covered with this waterproof tent fly. If you don't want the side walls to be covered, they roll up and have loops and hooks to pull those right up. You can also angle this out with poles to have access to your windows as well instead of using these window flaps. I don't think I told you guys the cons. At least I didn't tell you they were cons in my opinion. The price could be a con for some people, but in my opinion for a 10-person canvas tent, $2,000, $1,700 isn't a big con in my opinion. But I did find that one roof panel of the main body of the tent that wasn't waterproof from the factory. It was letting water in, and that's gotta be a con, right? The factory didn't do a good job at sealing all the panels on the roof, but I brought that to their attention and they're gonna take it up with the factory. Another con is the weight. 100 pounds, it's kind of heavy. Most people might not be able to carry this or lift it or move it around. So that could be a con. I showed you the pros, I told you the cons, I showed you my testing. So is this tent worth the money or is it just funny? If you got $1,700 for a tent, for a massive inflatable hot tent, I think it's worth the money. It passed all my tests. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.